Today is part 2 in my application to be your social media chaplain. Tuesday was a warning about social media and how it gives preference to the angry, yelly people. But today is something hopefully you already know. But before I get into that, I wanted to remind you that not many of you have been helping me out with this Stuck on You challenge. If you haven't heard of that, it's a viral trend that I'm trying to start. And you know how sometimes when you wake up in the morning or during the day, you'll have a song go through your head. You have no idea why it's there. Here's what I want you to do. Add that to a playlist. In a few minutes later on today, I will post the songs that have been going through my head this week, usually 1 or 2 a day, at least one. So what you do is then you can post the song that's on your head, take a YouTube link or whatever, and post it in the comments to that one. You can do it on mine, post it on yours, whatever, but I really want to see this trend go worldwide because it's completely harmless and it's kind of fun for us. Anyway, I'm calling it the Stuck on You challenge because for me it started when there's a Lionel Richie song, Stuck on You was one of the ones that was stuck in my head, and so that inspired me to do the challenge. So if you can do that, that'd be great. We're going to make this thing go worldwide. Anyway, for those of you who tuned in for the jokes, I don't want to disappoint you, but they'll get better as we go, okay? You've probably seen some of these. If you guys subscribe to any joke sites, you see these things. What did Cinderella say when her photos didn't arrive? Someday my prince will come. Prince as in my photo prints, get it? I'm just not sure about if you have to be able to see these, if they're always... If you understand verbally when I give them how well they go. Anyway, here's another one of those. What did the surgeon say to the patient who insisted on closing up their own incision? Suit yourself. Suture, like stitches. See what I mean? Anyway, this one you don't need to be able to spell or see the word. I am fairly certain that the person who put the first R in February also decided how we were going to spell Wednesday. Think about that for a little bit. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you today about as your social media chaplain, lesson 2, we may be on this theme for a couple weeks because I told you on Tuesday I read an article that's, and I'm going to read a bit of it again today, that has really been impactful, not just to me, but around the world, and I'll talk about that in a second. But also this theme keeps reoccurring. And a side note, you've probably heard me say, if you're part of our church or ever heard me preach, I don't say this every week, but if there's a topic or a theme that keeps reoccurring in your life, you keep running across that story, to me, it always means that God's trying to get your attention and tell you something. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But this topic I've seen at least 3 different places this week. The first one was in a story about university students, that suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for college students. And a large number of those have mental health disorders. 30% of students reported feeling depressed in the past year, and the statistics go on. That was one of the first stories I saw. But then there was a podcast. I don't want to give credit where it's due to. It's called the Plain English Podcast, and they did a podcast titled "Why Are American Teenagers So Sad and Anxious?" And on that podcast was the guest was the author of the article that I said on Tuesday, and I'm going to read a little bit about that today. But this article that I'm talking about, you'll see it in the detail posts, in the post details, has been the most read article every hour of every day for the last 2 weeks at The Atlantic. And I want to read you this quote, and this is where we're going to jump off today. He says this, and while social media has eroded the art of association throughout society, it may be leaving its deepest and most enduring marks on adolescents. A surge in rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm among American teens began suddenly in the early 2010s. The same thing happened to Canadian and British teens at the same time. The cause is not known, but the timing points to social media as a substantial contributor. The surge began just as the large majority... That's my phone going off. We'll ignore that for a little bit because I don't know where it is. Anyway, the surge began just as the large majority of American teens became daily users of the major platforms. Correlational and experimental studies back up the connection to depression and anxiety, as do reports from young people themselves and from Facebook's own research as reported by the Wall Street Journal. All this is just to verify what you probably already know, that social media is not really good for our kids and teenagers until they are mature enough to handle it. So that was the title for today. But as your newly self-appointed social media chaplain, I wanted you to know about the effect that social media is having on our young people. At least address the topic with them and encourage you to be more proactive as their parent. Be more proactive about the age that they start it. It wouldn't hurt to be more mature. The hours that they spend on it and the actual content that they participate in. And I'm not giving you guidelines and saying you have to do this, have to do that. I'm just going to share with you, here's the dangers of this. Be wise about it. Now, a lot of you that watch this are my former students when I was a youth pastor, and you have kids that are either teenagers or approaching that age. My youngest son is 16 today, and he finally, I say finally, got a phone, because I'm sure most of you would say, well, by 16 he should have had a phone by several years by now. But he has not been harmed because we waited this long to get him a phone. There were a few times when we wished to had a phone to get a hold of him, but really just a few. A lot of the embarrassment that you feel when your kids feel left out or shamed or whatever is really your own. And part of the embarrassment that your child doesn't have a social media presence will still be yours too. You'll be hurt that they aren't like everyone else. But really, it's a feeling that you and they need to get used to. You cannot protect your children from everything all the time. They need to learn to deal with difficult, embarrassing situations. And they need to learn what it feels like to go against popular trends. Scripture often calls us to do things that are not popular. And it'll be good now if your kid has to wait a while until they're more mature. And so they can get used to not doing what everyone else is doing. And I'm not going to give you all the verses in Scripture about persecution, because I really don't think making your teenager wait a few years to get a phone or to be on social media is persecution. What you'll really be doing is sending your kids a lesson about the priority that social media should have in our life. It's just a tool. It's just a thing. It is not our God. It's not a high priority. And it shouldn't have the voice of authority about what we believe. So I wanted to remind you of that today and give you a few verses. This is 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 20 through 26. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. And kind of read this in the context of how we should think about social media. Paul writes to Timothy, "In a wealthy home, some utensils are made of gold and silver, and some are made of wood and clay. The expensive utensils are used for special occasions, and the cheap ones are for everyday use." And he says, if you keep yourself pure, you'll be a special utensil for honorable use. Your life will be clean, and you'll be ready for the master to use you for every good work. Run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. Instead, pursue righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace. Enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. Again, I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone, be able to teach, and be patient with difficult people. Gently instruct those who oppose the truth. Perhaps God will change those people's hearts, and they will learn the truth. Then they will come to their senses and escape from the devil's trap, for they have been held captive by him to do whatever he wants. Go back and read that again, and keep in mind how social media has an influence on us, and how Paul's words would guide us in this walk of bringing our kids into the new social media world. So I want to conclude with this today. Don't be captive to your social media. Don't let it happen to your kids. And I do realize the irony that I'm saying this to you via social media, but that's because I want us to use it wisely and profitably and properly. There are tremendous opportunities that social media has brought us. So use them as the tool that they are, as a sacrifice to the Lord. I really want us to really turn social media on its head and make it back to what it used to be when we started. And you can always go back and read Romans 12:2. 12:1 and 2 to kind of give you some more verses for the day. So thanks for watching. God bless. If you have any thoughts you want to share, give them in the comments, likes. We always appreciate those. And if someone else that you know needs to hear this today, go ahead and share it with them as well. And thanks. God bless. Have a great day.